I say, originally, let me finish the story first. So I'm talking now about the market, which came a little bit later than when he had the wagon down by himself. Because what happened was all these farmers from Rehoboth and different areas outside of Providence would come in to the city to sell their produce. But it was the turn of the century had changed. We were getting more motorized. There was traffic. There were motorized vehicles in the city, and it was getting to be a real problem, a pain. You can imagine with the droppings from the horses, the hay that would fall, the cars trying to get around horses and wagons, and traffic was getting to be a problem, the smell. So the city said, well, we're going to do something about this. So they had a 6-acre parcel. It became the Governor Dyer Market. And that's where they said, all you local farmers can go there and sell your wares. And what they did was they sold shares in the market. So these farmers could buy shares in that market. And they would have not only a share in the market, but they would also have a stand, or how many stands they want, a little area that they could sell in, which typically was what a horse and a wagon would take up, and that amount of space. And they had them set up in rows. There's a great picture of it in Providence, down at the what's left of the Governor Dyer Market. In one of the buildings down there, has a big picture on the wall. And it was at that era when things were changing from horses to automobiles, trucks. And so half of the farmers there had horses and wagons, and the other half were modern with trucks. It's a great picture. And people know where their stand was on the picture. They always just come into this building and they have the picture on the wall and they say, my father's or my brother's or our stand was 3 up from the white horse. There was a horse and wagon with a white horse that everybody knew, this person. And so ours was 3 up and 2 down. That's where our stand was. So people could delineate where it was. So getting back to the story, so that's what happened. They went from these, everywhere in the city they were trying to sell this stuff, to this one consolidated place now. That was the only farmer's market at that time. And they go down there, like I say, 2 o'clock in the morning, get down there, set up their wares, try to sell out probably by 6:30, 7-ish. Then they have to drive all the way back. Now, they've gotten up at 2 o'clock in the morning. On the way back, they'd sleep. There were no streetlights. The route that they took in the area that my grandfather was from, that area of South Rehoboth, down by the Palmer River, where the Palmer River makes a bend and goes down into Swansea. A lot of farms. There's very good soil there. There's no rocks. Very little rocks as compared to, let's say, North Rehoboth, where it's more rockier terrain. Right? So that river, where it makes the bend, Providence Street becomes County Street in Seacon. It follows that east-west going towards Providence straight away. So everybody would funnel in to that street with their horses and wagons. And they would go down produce larger amounts of produce. And they weren't going to be selling it at these small markets like the Governor Dyer Market, where they'd have a few small stores. All the stores were smaller also. So you had a lot smaller, a lot more of it, smaller amounts, smaller stores. They'd only come and buy one bushel of this or 1 bushel of that, and they weren't going to be buying a large amount. But now that you're able to get into tractors and you're able to produce a lot more, you need a place that you can sell more. So people started going to wholesalers. That market was established. There was, I don't know how many, there had to be 15 to 20 wholesalers in that market. And they were getting stuff not only from the local people, but they were getting it from Canada, they were getting it from California. That's where the term iceberg lettuce came, because now they were able to, they figured out a way in trains and in trucking, they could pack lettuce from California where they had larger fields, and they could produce more, and they bring they pack it in ice, hence the name iceberg lettuce as it came over here. Then they started getting into better refrigeration, methods of refrigeration, so now they could truck in and train in a tremendous amount of produce. And what the local farmers were doing is they were selling to these wholesalers who were also buying from outside, And for a while there was plenty to go around. There was plenty of market. There was plenty of market share to go around. So even though the local farmers were farming more land and were able to put out more produce now because they had mechanization and chemicals, they still had a place for it to go. But little by little, more and more of these wholesalers started buying more stuff from the other parts of the country where they had much bigger fields than places like Rehoboth and New England, where we have much smaller patches of land. And the population's growing at the same time. There's more of a need. Stores are getting bigger. These supermarkets, like my uncle's supermarket, became we have mega supermarkets now, and chains of supermarkets, not just one supermarket owned by one person, one owned by another person, but chains of supermarkets where the amount of produce handled at one time was a lot more. And so they're bringing in all this produce from all over the country, and the local farmer is going down trying to sell his same produce, and he's competing with California, he's competing with Canada, he's competing with Florida. And these wholesalers had to buy this stuff on speculation. They had to pay for this produce ahead of time, not on speculation, but they had to pay for it ahead of time. So they may have a trailer load of cabbage from Canada in the back of the wholesale, and they're trying to sell this out to all the stores and everything else. And the local farmer may be coming in with 10, 15, 20, 50 cabbage. He's selling it on a commission basis. And when I started farming, and my father started farming, it was like 5% commission, 8% commission, with a 10% commission, and finally 12% commission to sell percentage that they would take out. So little by little, it had been quite good. It had been quite good during my father's generation of farming. Well, lots of farmers did very, very well, either going to Providence or going to the Boston market directly, trucking produce to the markets. There was a place for it to go. And after a while, it became that problem where don't need any today. Well, what do you do with your 2-acre parcel that you've got into cabbage and you have no market for it? What's going to happen to the cabbage? It's going to go bad. You're going to harrow it up. You're going to take a big loss. So little by little, some farmers started going in different directions. A lot of them started having their own stands, started selling directly to the public. That's when farmers started getting tired of wholesalers. And they started either going directly to the public or they sold directly to the stores. And I took the route of going directly to the stores. I got out of the wholesale thing completely and went directly to the stores. Even at the stores, they have distribution centers where you sell to them, it becomes another middleman. And then they sell to the stores, but I sell directly to the store itself. So now you're on a direct feed from the people. So you have a chance of selling your produce. And hopefully the produce is better, it hasn't been traveled all over the place, it's a lot fresher. So there's rationale. Today's a big push into buying local, buying from people you know, etc., because they're looking for that fresher produce. So anyway, that's the story of what's happened with farming in Rehoboth in the last, since the turn of the century.
More about how you grew up. What kind of chores did you have as a child on the farm?
When I grew up, again, it was my father was going into, just starting to change from into the regular conventional farming, more or less, but we still had chickens. Prior generations, and even at that generation, a lot of farmers had chickens or had cows, and they used the manure from the chickens or the cows to fertilize the crops in spring. You usually spread this manure in March or into the winter, into March. The ground broke, the frost broke into the ground, that's when you spread it. You just have a cover crop on before, so you spread it.